Hey guys, my name is Shai and this is Evermind Astro. This video is about having your moon in Taurus, right? It might also resonate if you have your moon in the second house. And I'm going to be focusing specifically on emotional processing. I feel like emotional processing, that's a pretty big part of our moon placement, and it's not always a big focus of what we're thinking about, right? So we can really learn a lot about how we process our emotions if we think about our moon sign, right? And you might need to blend your moon sign and your moon house and anything it's aspected with. And so a lot going on, of course, but let's just talk a little bit generally about how emotional processing might work for someone with their moon in Taurus or in the second house. So the image for this one, okay, is water trickling down through the earth. And because just think, Taurus is earth, right? This is earth energy in the moon. This is lunar earth energy. It's a little bit different. It's a very interesting moon, and I think it is a very powerful, very profound placement and really kind of underestimated because it's easy to think about moon in Taurus and think, okay, creature comforts, luxury, those are the words that get thrown around, right? These people like to be comfortable, they're connected with animals, and there's almost this implication that moon in Taurus can be kind of simplistic. And I think that's kind of missing the point because it's not about being simplistic or simple. It's this ability to filter your emotions as if they are dirty water, okay? And let me explain. Or really even filtering not just your emotions, but filtering the emotions of others. This placement, just like, everybody, right? And it's going to vary. But if you happen to be watching this video, you're probably someone who is intuitively sensitive to energy, sensitive to emotions. So you guys in particular are probably picking up on other people's emotions quite a bit, right? And how does your Taurus moon, what does it do with that? So you're not just processing your emotions, you're processing other people's emotions. Just like the earth, okay? Because your moon is a little bit like the earth, like the soil, right? Like the actual soil or like dirt, right? And emotions, especially other people's emotions, it's like the rain, like the water. And emotions, of course, can feel so pure and beautiful and wonderful and clear. But of course, we're all humans, and life is sometimes the way it is, and our emotions can also be really, sometimes they can be toxic, sometimes they can be full of debris, sometimes they can be muddy, right? And so, what happens if you take water that has impurities in it, right? And you throw that onto some dirt. Well, all the water with all of its impurities, right? Anything that might be, and this doesn't even have to be a bad thing, right? This doesn't even have to be negative. Just think of, you could even have like salt water. Salt water is not necessarily bad. You don't want to drink it, right? But where would we be without the oceans? The oceans are salt water. You could have sugar water. That's food for hummingbirds, right? Just because there's something in the water doesn't mean it's impure in a bad way. That's just that there is things dissolved in the water, right? The water is carrying different debris, different chemicals, different types of elements, right? So anyway, so you get all this water and you put it all over the soil, and that water starts to filter down through the soil. And this is where the Taurus moon comes in, where you know what happens when you put water through soil. The soil of the earth filters it, right? It filters it. It takes all of those, anything that's in the water, and it catches it. It catches it and it makes it part of the soil. And then it ultimately releases crystal clear, pure water, right? That's why if you find a perfectly pristine spring in the wilderness, it's safe to drink out of it, right? You don't want to drink out of a river. You don't want to drink out of a lake, not without treating it, right? But you can usually drink out of a spring, water gushing straight from the earth, even if it's coming from rock and dirt, right? That the rock and the dirt and the sand and the soil of the earth has filtered the water and made it clean and clear and good for you to drink, right? So this whole long analogy here, this is how you guys with your moon in Taurus, you have this effect on emotions in general, your emotions, other people's emotions, right? It's this filtering process. And that, and again, this isn't a very active thing. You don't need to be actively trying to force filter, right? I know if you like pressurize water through like a filter, you can make it, filter faster, but that's not really what we're talking about here, right? We're talking about the waters flood in and they flood your inner landscape, right? They flood your lunar energy, and it's this filtering process. And the emotions run through you, right? And you kind of collect what you need from it, right? Like, and here, really, I'm really going to run with this analogy, right? I think it's working for me. Think about the plants that grow in the soil, right? That water that might have quote unquote impurities in it, right? That goes into the soil, and the soil collects anything that might be in the water, like the nitrogen and stuff, right? That is food for plants. I can't give you the details because I don't know what kind of plant nutrients is actually carried by water. So for those, maybe somebody knows more about that, but I do know that the water has to carry the nutrients to the plants, right? And it goes into the soil, and the soil collects it, and then the roots of the plants take the nutrients that were deposited there by the water, and then the plants can grow tall and strong. So this isn't simply about just like purifying and getting bad things out of your emotions, or like removing toxicity from your emotions, although it is that, right? Like when you guys are going through something challenging, or if you have somebody around you who's kind of leaking their toxic emotions all over you, yeah, there's going to be a filtering process where you work on clarifying your emotions. And it's this kind of process of just feeling your feelings and letting them flood through you, and letting your Taurus moon do its thing of filtering all these emotions. So it does have this capacity to remove things that you don't like, but it is also gathering nutrients, okay? It is gathering nutrients to help you grow. So the magical capacity for your moon in Taurus to filter emotional energy, and it's not really, it's processing it in the sense that filtering something is a way of processing something, but for some other moons, they need to really, really actively work through, either physically or mentally or intellectually, or doing spiritual work and shadow work and all this stuff. All of that stuff could be helpful to you, of course. You should always be doing, what's ever working for you. But really, there's this feeling of this gentleness and this flow and this naturalness to it, okay? This naturalness. And depending on what you're into, right, depending on who you are, you might find that connecting to energies that are like you in this regard can help soothe you while you wait through this process. Because for you guys, there can be a certain amount of waiting for your emotions to kind of process themselves, right? Because just like the earth processing the water, filtering the water, you kind of have to wait for this to work itself out. To a large extent, it's going to be doing it on its own, right? And maybe you don't, maybe I'd be curious if any of you guys ever get confused when you talk about people working through their emotions, or doing this, doing that to like work through their emotions, right? And I would be curious if maybe for you guys, you more instinctively know that you just need to feel your feelings and wait for them to like move through you, and you know that they will, and there's a trusting of this process. And maybe if you don't necessarily have an instinctive trust for this process, that that's something you can build on. That's something you can learn about. And the older you get, the more you'll be able to look back on your life and see, wow, yeah, that was a really hard thing that happened to me, and I really just had to allow my emotions to run their course. And naturally, over the course of time, and as I move through my life, my body and like my inner strength just kind of figured it out, right? And I came out the other side nourished, and I came out the other side clean and clear, right? Your emotions, as they become more clear, that's also how you are nourishing yourself, right? Your inner landscape, your inner sanctum, your inner space, your inner soil, I almost want to call it, is filtering out the bad, keeping, and also breaking down, right? Just think about how the earth, it like breaks down anything that is left in it, right? You bury something in the soil, it breaks it down, right? It biodegrades. So that's how I feel like the things that might be undesirable to you, right? The emotional experiences that are undesirable or maybe toxic to you, right? Or unpleasant or painful to you, they will kind of naturally biodegrade given enough time, right? And how long that takes, maybe it's a long time, right? Maybe sometimes your natural process of allowing your emotions and their side effects to biodegrade, maybe that takes a while, right? Maybe you don't get there as fast as, say, an Aries moon or a Gemini's moon, which I would kind of argue are two of the faster types of emotional processors, right? You might need to just naturally let the years go by if it takes years, right? But as that is happening, you're also nourishing yourself, like, right? You're receiving nourishment from this process of filtering. And what else was I going to say? Oh, yeah, there's something that just, we're talking about Taurus, right? Inevitably, like, I would be remiss not to at least mention this, right? Connecting with animals, connecting with Mother Gaia, and connecting with the physical earth can be very, very nourishing for you guys to get out in the garden, right? To walk barefoot, to hug a tree, to be with your dog or your cat or whatever animal you love, right? Because they have this energy within them naturally, right? They have this in them, like, this energy within them naturally. And what I will say, especially if you don't like gardening, and I mean, I get it, I don't like gardening either, because there's something about how our moon sign, sometimes it's kind of repressed. Sometimes we need to spend some time getting in touch with our own lunar energy. Our moon sign, as we learn more about it, can be a little bit like a North Node journey, right? It can be like you're learning to bring that energy online. So if you're trying to, get more in touch with this aspect of yourself, could be really helpful for you to do some type of gardening, or at least just like getting out there find a flower garden in town, right? And walk through it and just stop and smell the roses, that type of thing, right? Anything that gets you in contact with the earth. And I don't know if you can hear, but my cat has been meowing the whole time I'm recording this. He's trying to get in the door, and my other cats are both at the door, right? That's the animals trying to connect with you. I would just just to throw it out there, there's a highly likely chance that animals are drawn to you on some level, and that's definitely something that you guys could cultivate, right? Some of you are already all over that and you're like, yeah, me and animals, like, that's old news, right? Some of you maybe haven't explored that fully if you just didn't grow up in an environment where animals were something that you had a relationship with, right? You can have really deep relationships with animals, and that includes wild birds and crows and stuff like that. Even insects and little fish swimming by, to really, really kind of just emotionally connecting with animals and plants and the earth, because they have a frequency that's going to be very healing for you. And the more you hang out with their energy, the more your own inner Taurus energy is going to kind of come forward, and you're going to understand it better. They are basically a tuning fork for you, right? So yeah, get outside, hang out with some animals, go smell some flowers, right? This is the kind of thing that it seems very simplistic, and it seems, pretty cliche, but there is a deep experience here that is available to you. And like, if you've already experienced it, then you know what I mean. And if you haven't experienced it, and you go out and you have a really deep like connection with a flower, and it like soothes your emotions on the next level, or guys, a duck pond, find somewhere where there's ducks or geese and watch the ducks just float around on the pond, right? Watch some ducks, spend a half hour watching some ducks float around in the pond. That can be so profound. You know how much emotional wisdom you can learn from watching ducks? You either know what I mean, or you can go discover what I mean. It can't really be explained. It is profound, right? And that feeling of not necessarily being able to explain your emotions, or being able to explain how you process your emotions, probably pretty common, because Taurus energy isn't particularly like necessarily verbal. Somebody with a Taurus placement can be super verbal, right? It's just that energy doesn't come from the Taurus energy. Taurus energy is more about this grounded sensation, right? It's about grounded sensation. And so the more you can ground your emotions, the more your inner Taurus moon is going to be able to filter your emotions and, clarify your emotions for you, and nourish the rest of your life, right? By receiving nourishment from the process of filtering your emotions. So I'm going to leave you guys there. If you're interested in checking me out, I got lots of links down below to all the other things I do on the internet. So talk to you guys later. Bye.